Welcome back to another session on how to run a server, this time at Aledark's suggestion. EconBrony and RammGirl and Aledark are going to talk about mods. And so we all decided we would come back to what is now the discussion room, not the yoga studio. RammGirl has just offered to make me a Jaeger bomb to get my tongue wagging. I absolutely love wine, but I'm not a drinking woman. If anyone gives me half a glass of wine, I get truly bad and my tongue loosens. It's very, very bad news. Okay.
Well, that's good. That's good, though. That's what we want. And we have lots of wine to share. We do cherry wine around here.
Fantastic. Now, first of all, EconBrony and RammGirl run a hugely successful server, and they have done for a long time. And the server covers 3 areas. It covers Vintage Story, it covers Minecraft, and it covers Ark. Now, because all 4 of us are playing in Vintage Story, I think it might be helpful to just focus, to start with, on the Vintage Story mods and talk about how they decided what... Well, first of all, did you decide to have mods on Aura Fury? Why would you put mods rather than play vanilla?
For which one? Just for Vintage Story or for other games?
Talk about any you like.
Well, because for Minecraft, it was just because we started modded. So that wasn't really a discussion. It was just a, here, I'm going to show you how to play this game, and we were introduced to that. So we started modded.
Right. Ark?
Also modded because vanilla Ark is absolutely, like, it's grindy and miserable at regular settings. So you almost have to play it modded just to make it more, like a decent quality of life type of game.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can literally spend like 300 hours in one game and still not even get to end game stuff.
How wonderful. I've never played Ark. I watch them cutting up the dinosaurs and I'm unbelievably squeamish. And I couldn't take the blood.
Yeah, it is a bit bloody, but thankfully that's the only place that it's actually really graphic. Everything else is very tame and pretty moderate. But for Vintage Story, I think we wanted to be as vanilla as possible. I think we only have 1 mod, right?
Really?
No, we have 5 mods.
Oh, 5 but we didn't start that way.
No, we started vanilla. We were completely vanilla because a lot of us were just getting into the game. We didn't know of any good mods at the time yet.
Yeah.
So with Vintage Story, the mods kind of got added as we got input from the community itself. And then, of course, we have a modder that's in our group, Durian. He made 2 mods that we ended up putting in too.
Right. How do you pronounce his name?
Durian?
Yeah. Only I know Aledark would tell you that I go into ecstasy over his doors and portcullis. Okay, so what was the first mod you added and why?
It was definitely Durian's mods, because we kind of added them all at one time.
Oh, okay.
And it was Aledark that suggested a couple of them.
Right.
He suggested
Whoa.
medieval mod.
Before you go into that, let me just, I just need to say that I'm recording because...
Oh, yeah, in the chat.
Yeah, so don't type anything private.
Yeah, no doxing during recording.
That sounds absolutely disgusting. Okay. I'm sure it's not, but it sounds it. All right. They all know now that we're recording. Okay. So when we started playing vanilla with Vintage Story, and then what was it that the community wanted that pushed you towards your first mods?
Immediately storage improvements in some way, shape, or form, because storage was a little difficult to figure out in the beginning, and then we found that it was extremely limiting. Like, you could dedicate an entire house of just storage. So anybody that came along and said, hey, I can make storage a little bit more efficient, we were like, yes, please.
Yeah. And so who makes the storage efficient?
That was Durian's mods.
Yeah,
It's the better crates, better chests.
right. Better crates and better chests. Okay. I didn't know those were his. Good.
Yep, they're both his.
I mean, I have these mods on my machine. I just hadn't really. I was so bothered about how to get them on the machine and how to get them into the game that I hadn't quite read the descriptions properly. So first of all, it was storage, and then what led you on from there?
Aledark had
Yeah,
suggested the medieval mod because it added some new doors and drawbridges and such that were
yeah,
really nice. And
yeah.
then he found the workbench mod, which allows us to create chiseled block duplicates without having to hand chisel them, but it still uses all the durability of the chisel, so it still fits in with balance.
Oh,
And then,
that's what people use to
yep,
copy the chiseled blocks. It's the
and then we have the carry-on
workbench.
mod as well.
Carry capacity from
Yeah, carry
Copyga.
capacity.
Yeah, I know, because CopyGirl's a friend of mine, so I know that she put that one together. I've used that one before. So, are those the only mods you have?
And,
Correct.
and just to specify, the author of medieval expansion and workbench expansion is Honan. He plays on the German server, but he's a pretty good modder as well. So we only have three authors, different authors, for the 5 mods at the moment.
Ronan is very nice and willing to listen to people that are using his mods too. He's worked with both Aledark and I to fix some bugs in his mods.
Oh, how nice.
Yep.
And that makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, huge difference.
And also, I should think one of the things I've always found when you use mods, and yeah, I haven't even really used them substantially in Minecraft, is that they go out of date, and then you find that whoever put them together doesn't want to update them. They've moved on to something else, and you lose something you're quite attached to. So,
Yeah, you do. You do. You kind of two things could happen. Either you try to find something that that replicates it close enough so that you can at least carry on with your newer versions with something that's close to it,
yeah,
or the other thing, because this happens in Arc quite a bit, is that a mod will get abandoned. They'll say permanent hiatus, not touching it. So somebody else picks it up and then continues on with it in its place.
okay,
Like the
okay,
exact same mod, but they basically adopt the mod
yeah.
itself and say we'll take it on from here. So you kind of hope for one of those two.
And do the authors get anything out of it? Because I know that, you know, people who make videos get a few pence, pathetic amounts for, you know, what the reward is. And I know that your servers, you're going to be lucky if you break even. But what about the modders? Do they get any financial gain, or is it just for the love of it?
They have Patreons, PayPal for donations too, and
Ah,
then in other things like Minecraft, like if you're on CurseForge, depending on how many downloads you get rewards that can be turned into gift cards for like Amazon and other things.
oh right, I didn't know that. Good. So yeah, so there is a Patreon for. So if I wanted to say put the medieval mods on my single player world, it might be courteous of me to maybe make a donation to Dorian.
That would be Ronan for
Oh,
the
Ronan, I'm
medieval
sorry.
expansion,
Yes,
but
Ronan.
yeah,
I should have asked for a board on the wall. I'm getting my modders muddled up.
I'm sure he would certainly appreciate it.
Well, the principle was it would be courteous. Yeah. Okay. So, well, I've been on realms in Minecraft, and I'm sure it's the same in Vintage Story, where you've got different people, and you tend to in Minecraft have one type of person like me who wants more flowers, more trees, more pretty things, more collectibles. You've got another type of person that just loves the tech, and they always want the more techie stuff. They want the nuclear power stations, you know. Do you find that you get a commonality of pressure in Vintage Story as to what people want? Or do you find that they have very different views.
Of course, you're going to run into a whole bunch of players with different views, and you've got to try to find that balance of what's going to work well. And there's a few things you have to consider. One, of course, is the server's performance. The more you add, the harder it is on the server. So until you can find that good balance with performance, you can't add a ton in. So like right now, we're waiting for the 1.14 update to come, and then we're going to test things to see how things run for quite a while on that before we even think about adding any type of new mods to our server, even though there's been a lot of requests, because it's more important to make sure that we have smooth playing on our server for now.
I didn't realize that mods would add performance issues.
Yep, they can, and they can add some really bad performance issues. You can end up with corruption in your world, all sorts of things if they're not made for your correct version.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with all that.
Yeah.
There's also other kind of issues that if there's some bugs in certain mods, it can make the economy of the server fell off. Like
Oh,
if you find a bug that allows duping, for instance, or something else, well, that if that becomes widely known and widely used on the server, well, then no one wants to trade and stuff because they are getting super wealthy, or a
right.
certain player use it to his advantage, I could say.
Yeah. So duping is duplicating.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
We would call it an exploit.
Yes.
Where they
yes.
some way to
Yep.
manipulate others. We just trying to nick.
RammGirl, you're cutting out a bit. Do you have your microphone set to only record when you're speaking?
No, I'm going back and forth because Econ and I are in the same room, so our headsets will pick each other up. So I'm in the future, when we get a setup better, we'll probably be in separate rooms when you record, so that we both can talk without you hearing duplicates, basically.
Oh, that sounds lonely.
Oh, yeah, but we don't want it to intervene with each other. But no, I've been muting my mic and then unmuting it, so I think there's a small delay between my mute and then my unmute, so it sometimes cuts me off a little bit. Sorry about that.
No, not at all, not at all. I'm fascinated hearing about what other people are doing. So, okay, balancing mods. How do you balance?
There's another aspect of balancing too, and that's keeping the balance of the game itself.
Yeah.
We have a community of mainly adults and players that are really enjoying the survival aspects of the game. And if you add a bunch of mods in that make the game significantly easier, people will lose interest and get bored a lot quicker on your server. So you got to be careful with that. And then, of course, the economy of the server. So if you add things like one of the mod requests that I've gotten was to add a mod that basically gives you free salt by putting water in the barrels. And that basically destroys the server economy for salt, because you just get that for free. And then when you find salt, it's like, oh, whoop-de-doo. You literally got rid of that aspect. And another thing is when you go to somebody's build and you see a lot of more expensive materials, like the polished stones and stuff, and the plaster, it makes it look that much more impressive because you know what was put into it. So if you add a mod that makes it cheaper or easier to get blocks and different things for your builds, it takes away from that as well.
Oh, I agree with you. The one mod that I'm quite surprised that you don't have is the keep your inventory on death mod. How did you decide not to have that?
Well,
that's a setting. I'll go ahead, Econ, sorry.
Yeah.
Girl was waving at me to speak too, so I don't know. You can go first, Aledark.
Well, basically, there's the keep inventory is interesting for a new player perspective, but after a while, people start to use it to their advantage by having a free teleport back home. right? So it kind of makes everything a bit trivial in the exploration aspect. So and that's not a mod itself. It's just a setting in the game that you can write a command on the server console to change it up. So you can change that when you create your world. It's not an added on mod.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, it really gets rid of the point of your TLs, networks, and your roads and all of that if you do that.
Yeah, I agree with that actually, because why build a road when everyone can just die and get home swiftly with everything they've got?
The other thing I found with losing your inventory when you die, the problem with that for me in the beginning was that in Minecraft, when you die, we had the mod where your stuff goes into a gravestone, so you can find your way back to the gravestone and open it back up. Here
Yes.
in Vintage Story, there's not like markers or anything to help you get back to your body like there is in Minecraft.
Yeah.
So for me, it was almost like it added an even more difficult level. So in that sense, I actually considered Vintage Story to be almost harder than Minecraft when it comes to trying to recover your inventory. So it almost makes it like, because so many other things about Minecraft is easier than Vintage Story in that sense. So I like that Vintage Story has its own slight element of difficulty over Minecraft.
You don't keep your inventory in Minecraft. That's a mod as well.
No, I know that, but I mean, like, most people play that with Minecraft. 90% of the world plays that with Minecraft. Hardcore players will play without that, or vanilla players will play without that. But here in Vintage, I almost wouldn't change that. I almost wouldn't even do a mod with that.
I understand that. Uh-huh. And when you're thinking about the future, do you have mods in mind for the future? I mean, how are you going to balance all the different clamorings for different mods? Because I'm sure that you've got so many players on the server now that a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, I want this mod, I want that mod, I want... How do you decide what you're going to add next, if anything?
Well, there will certainly be a debate on there. We'll talk about all these issues. We'll talk about performance issues. We'll talk about balance of the game and the fact that we don't want any mod that's going to make it much easier in any way. In fact, I would actually myself prefer a mod that would add more complexity, more things to do, versus making things easier, even if it's for something as simple as building materials. I don't really want to see the game get easier, because that's one of the things that draws to our server. The easier you make it, the less people are going to stay. So we'll have to debate between the players, and once we narrow it down to a few mods, if I don't think it would be good for the whole server to get all those mods, we'll take a vote. And we'll find out which ones players want.
Yeah.
So just because a modder's in our community, for instance, doesn't automatically mean that mod's going to end up on the server. It's going to be up to the community and whether it makes sense with balance.
Yeah. No,
Sometimes it's a matter of cost also to the recipe, because a modder could have a really good idea, but his recipe for the actual item is way too cheap. So just because of that, it can lead to certain of us to say no to that mod.
No, I understand that. Yeah. I mean, I find it very interesting that this game is still in early access. So just as the modders are piling in and developing different mods, so the actual main development team for Vintage Story is adding a lot more complexity and interest to the game as we go, in terms of things to collect, in terms of I love the power, the you know, the sort of wind power and all the different gearing and stuff like that. And it is starting to, you know, give it a longer end date, if you like, for any world you're playing on. And I can understand why you wouldn't want to shortcut that complexity. The mods you've chosen seem to me to be mods that help builders. Excuse me. I think that if you look at the better chests and the better storage, which was the first thing that came to mind, it does stop you having to have, as you say, sort of, well, as I have on my single player world, sort of cellars full of chests. But then the doors one and the portcullis, that's a whole level of detail that's very, very exciting for builders. And I think some of the other aspects you have are very exciting for builders and give you more complexity in the builds. So it seems to me, sure, that what you've moved towards are mods that give more interest for the builders, but not shortcuts, sort of superpower like atomic power, or cheats like keeping your inventory when you die. And I do that on my single player world. So when I call it a cheat, it's not a criticism of anyone. I do it myself. But it seems to me that you've gone very carefully towards building enhancement.
Mostly because building enhancement doesn't automatically break a balance of the game. If all you do is add blocks and add recipes to create blocks, you still have to earn that. You still have to go find the materials. You still have to make the time and the inventory to do that.
Yeah.
So really, this game only seems to have two major stages for me. The first major stage is, getting your first temporal gear so that you can respawn where you want to be, like where your build is. And then the second stage of this game is getting a consistent and reliable food supply. So once you have those two things basically established, from there, the next big thing in this game is just building.
Yeah.
Having this grandiose plan for your house, because most of us start in dirt holes.
True.
Most of us just start by, carving out a little dirt hole in the wall or building up dirt walls around us. And that's not that nobody wants to stay in that. Nobody builds a dirt hut and just goes, look, I'm so proud of my dirt hut. No, most of us always have that dream of, I can't wait to get where I can get enough wood, stone, plaster, and, mix of materials to build the house I want, or the workshop I want. So I think that's why we do focus so hard on building, is because that quite literally for us is like, it's that progression that we feel like should be in every game. First survive, second get food, third build the mansion.
I agree with you, because I put it into sort of first survive, second food, but my next point is not the temporal gear that takes you home. My next big point, the big turning point in the game, is when I get a saw. And to me, as soon as I've got a saw, I'm a happy bunny. So
that's true. It opens up a lot of other possibilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I would consider your chests and storage mods, as well as carry capacity, quality of life mods too. That has make things better for those aspects of the game, because you can move the chests while they're still full. You have a little bit more space when you're exploring and so on.
That does make a huge difference. I do agree with you on that one. So when you're looking forwards to the future, are you going to, do you have any particular mods that are sort of moving towards the front of your consciousness, or towards the front of the community consciousness, that you're starting to think about?
In Vintage Story, it's a little bit tougher to plan ahead. In Minecraft, I've got thousands of mods I can go and look at now.
Yeah.
And I can edit recipes myself and do all sorts of modifications to make it fit more in with balance. Well, I can't do that here yet in Vintage Story. There's a limited amount of mods and so on. So really, the only one that there's two mods that I know of that are kind of on the horizon and will be debated in the community. Obviously, you have Durian's new mod that's coming, and depending on how recipes and such are done and what other things it adds, that could be a mod that ends up getting added to our server. And then there's another mod that connects our Discord server and the Vintage Story chat together, to where you can chat from Discord into the server and vice versa, which will be nice for the community.
Why will that help?
It's you don't have to log into the server to chat and see what the discussion is. You can continue to have a discussion with players even when you're not on the server, which is nice. And then you can also look and see who's online without logging on to the server as well. It's right there in the Discord. You can go, oh, that's who I want to do my trade with now. I'll jump on now.
Oh, I appreciate what you're saying about who's online, but I've actually chatted to people through Discord without being on the server, in the server Discord.
Yeah, but the Discord would be linked to the server itself. So they wouldn't have to go into the Discord to chat with you. They could chat in the Vintage Story server chat, the general chat, and it will show up in Discord too.
Oh, right. Are you talking about using a microphone or just typing?
Typing.
Ah.
So Yep.
Yeah, now I'm with you. Yeah, we had one killing thing on... I played on a Vintara server with Nathan Worstrel, who's now part of Aura Fury. And he logged off the server one night, but left his Discord on. And we could hear him and his wife having supper, going to bed and things like that. It was phenomenal. We're trying to get messages to him, turn your microphone off. This is more information than we need to know. But yeah, I can see where you would come from on that one. I'm not very good at typing, so that doesn't help me much. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that one. So you can type away in chat, in Discord, and it will show up on the server.
Let's say it's super in the morning and you're in your bed on your phone on Discord. I could check out who's online on the game without having to go to my PC, opening it, checking who's online, and say, oh, I want to do a chiseling video with Aledark, for instance.
And you can join in the conversation too that's happening on the Vintage Story server itself.
Aledark's talking about me because he knows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
I
come
didn't
on.
know that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you know that I sit. He knows that I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get a cup of coffee and I sit in bed with my iPad and I go on and I see what's happening. And I'm sort of planning ahead for the day. And often I will chat to someone like Aledark. Often it is Aledark. And because early in the morning I can catch him because our time zones don't match. And I'm often chatting to him. And then I'll say something, well, I finished my coffee. I've got to get up and get dressed. And he knows. He knows I'm sitting in bed in my pajamas chatting to him. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, you've told me before.
Yeah. What we must make sure of is that we don't add visuals.
True. That's important.
Yes. Oh, God, can you imagine someone seeing you having coffee in bed in the morning? All right, so do mods cause any problems or arguments? Do you have any, when I say passion associated with mods, do you have people that say, if you don't add this mod, I'm leaving the server?
Well, luckily with being a group of adults, we have not run into that yet.
Yeah. And do you have anyone who says, I don't agree with this and stuff like that? You don't have arguments over it?
We have debates, is what I'd call it. We talk about ideas. No one gets mean or angry or anything like that. We've had pretty good luck with that.
Yeah. And do you have people who try to influence you by saying, look, I will give you $100 if you'll put this mod in or do that or something?
I'll give you cabbages if you add that mod, like that.
Okay, we've never actually had true bribery come up in the game yet.
Well, I have to be...
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have.
Yes, in Minecraft, I had players that literally offered me money to put mods into my mod pack.
No.
Okay, well, with Minecraft, yes, we've probably had issues. Not with Vintage yet. We've not had anybody get pretty nasty in Vintage yet.
No, they didn't get nasty.
Well, come
they
on.
offered the money and said, if you add this mod, that will literally destroy the balance of your mod pack. We will go onto your Patreon and donate $20 a month for the next year, and it would be 2 of us. So they offered me quite a bit, and I still turned them down.
Oh my goodness. They felt passionate about that.
Yeah, they wanted this mod where it's called Archimedes airships. So you could literally build airships and put entire bases on them and travel around, and that would really throw off the balance in the Fear of the Night pack I made, which is supposed to be more of a difficult mod pack.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it always reminds me of Iron Maiden Fear of the Dark. That ought to be your theme tune for it. Oh gosh, I think that's fascinating because I'm not a patron or a monthly contributor to Vintage Story, but I do tend to lob one-off donations towards Tartan and Sarity from time to time, but I make it absolutely clear that there are no strings attached. I don't need anyone to do anything. I don't need anyone to, treat me any differently. It's just thanks for keep developing the game. And I think that's okay. But I can imagine people saying to you, let me thrust this money at you and do as I want.
That's why I made it very clear in our community that there's no special tags or colors that your name gets, or free items, or you don't get to become an admin, nothing like that. My wife and I run the servers with our money, and if we have to pay for the whole thing, that's fine. If people want to help out, that's great.
Yeah.
And all they're going to get from us is a very appreciative thank you. It's not going to lead to special privileges on the server.
Yeah. I love that idea that everybody's equal. So we talked last time saying that you don't pay more and get privileges on your server. Everybody is equal. And also, I think with mods then, it's nice to hear that the same principle applies, that you can't shade or you can't affect the direction of the server as far as what mods are added by lobbing in money.
Yep, it's going to be community and admins that end up making the decision in the end.
Yeah. And Aledark.
Yes.
Do you have any mods that you are developing or that you're passionate about at the moment?
Well, the 2 that Econs mentioned, I think, are the most common thing that are going to be up. There's other mods that look nice, but the problem with most of them is that they're not modular enough, that we cannot pick just a third of them and then integrate it. We have to take the whole thing, and one part of it may cause unbalance on the server.
Yes.
So it's not that the mods that are being created have no value or are not interesting. It's just that sometimes if we integrate them with what we currently have,
yes,
it can trigger a few detrimental effects that we talked about earlier. So that's why it's very touchy. Like even Darren mod for Better Grace and Better Chess, if he didn't prevent carry capacity to pick up like the crates and the iron chest and such, it could have been too easy to have a huge inventory. So the balance in the mods are like, I think, the number one quality. To make sure it's accepted or not.
Yeah. So again, coming back to what it takes to run a server, it's quite clear that you all have a level of technical ability to understand how the game is balanced, to be able to look at the recipes for the mods and the way they're written, and to understand how it will affect the balance. And also, in your case, Econ, you were saying that you can actually rewrite a bit of the recipes to make it fit with your server. Is that correct?
Yes, I've done that with Ark as well as Minecraft. I've yet to do that in Vintage Story, though.
How did you get all this technical knowledge?
Google.
Close enough. It's experimenting, reading, and researching, watching videos. There was quite a few nights when I first got into modpack development where I literally just stayed up all night troubleshooting and trying things to get things to work, because that was back when you put mods together, you'd get ID conflicts in Minecraft, and I'm sure there's a few of your viewers that remember those days. They were horrid.
Oh yes.
We
remember
it's
that.
gotten a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot easier in Minecraft to just get the mods to work together. But I learned a bit of JavaScripting on my own to be able to do that. And of course, it's custom script languages a lot of times. Same thing over in Arc. It's a custom script language for editing the recipes, and it's completely different than what that was in Minecraft. So it's just, a lot of self-motivation and self-teaching.
You end up as coding multilingual.
My coding is very limited compared to someone like Durian, though. He's far more advanced than I am.
Is he?
IR Papyrus in this server as well is a very advanced coder. So sometimes I turn to them for help too.
And they willingly give it, I'm sure.
Yep, they're both great.
Yeah. Because I think often when people are in a server and they're part of the community, it's not just you and RammGirl. There are people, and like Aledark, and the others you've mentioned who you can call on for help, because Aledark helps you. If the server goes down and you're both asleep. So
I have a very hands-off approach to the server itself. So I'm basically a player. That's all there is.
Yeah.
And if problems come up, I fix them. And when we talk about making major changes to the direction of the server, yeah, I'm very heavily involved. But in the end, the server is the communities. The roads are there because of the community.
Yeah.
The builds are there because of the community. That's not me.
I think you have one of the most impressive networks of roads I've ever seen.
We've built it quite a lot, and I think you only saw maybe 10% of the roads, Ash.
Oh, if that. You know that my problem is that I've not been able to play on my computers much for the last almost 6 weeks because of a death of a very close relative, which has caused untold problems because we're a very small family. So it's all hands to the pump. But yeah, it's really impressive what's being built here. A very fascinating community and server. So I'm very, very interested to see which way it goes. What happens if the feeling of a community is that that the community wants atomic power? I'm using extreme examples. Whereas you personally, Econ, RammGirl, Aledark, would like to have fruit trees. What happens if the way you in your heart of hearts want your own server to go, the community wants something different?
It depends on the situation. So if the community wants something that I think will torpedo the community, so to speak, that will be that because it throws off the balance and it will make it impossible for me to get new players, so on, then there's a small chance it could get turned down. But one of my ways of approaching when that comes about is I create another server. And that server gets what the community wants. And we keep the other server the way it was. So it's kind of a really good compromise to go that angle. But most of the time, the community isn't looking for something that's going to literally torpedo things. It may throw balance off a little bit. And, we just bite the bullet, so to speak, if we don't like it, but the whole community does. So, who are we against the whole community?
Right. I love the idea that you just spin off another server and the atomic scientists go over there and the rest of us will keep enjoying ourselves over here.
Yep, pretty much. It's happened in the past where we had a kind of a divide on where we wanted to go, and we ended up with 2 Minecraft servers for a while.
Oh, good grief. I can see Stormy Piano there. Hi, Stormy. You got to come and show yourself.
Come inside,
Just watching.
Stormy.
I can see
Nice.
you. I saw you.
We've seen you.
Lurking in the distance.
Yeah,
I'm
coming.
not. I don't know how to get up there in this confusing build.
Yeah, it looks
You
like
go
a
through the tunnel
wall.
underneath, and then there's stairs to come up.
There's
Yeah.
a tunnel underneath.
Yeah, they've hidden
Right
the
across from the
stairs.
vault.
RammGirl here.
Yo,
There's the stairs. Okay.
and welcome to the yoga studio.
Oh, look at these patterns.
I know. Oh, Stormy Piano, that's what I say. Look at these patterns. It's like being in a medieval tapestry, these buildings. Hi,
Yes, I just went motivation.
how are you? Are you a modder?
No, I am not, but I am a builder. I try my best.
Okay. Well, welcome to the discussion. Have you been listening in?
Ben,
Is there anything you would like to ask or add about mods?
no, I've just been listening.
Okay. Aledark, is there anything else you think we haven't covered about mods? Because this whole discussion,
Question.
it's your
Yeah.
idea and I find it fascinating. What haven't we covered?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. It's just that overall, it just needs balance. It
Yeah.
needs an author that's implicated. Because the best mod, if we have like Econ, you can ask probably this question, but if you feel like an author won't update this mod, we probably won't even bother with it.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the reputation of a new modder, even if he has the best mod in the game, we might wait and see a little bit because it has many implications. If we add that new mod, if 2-3 months down the road that person won't continue updating it. So
Yeah.
I think I'm just repeating myself or what we said already, but
Well, never any harm. So basically, you've got mods from 3 people, I think, if I'm counting right.
yep, Copy Girl, Ronan, and Doran, if I pronounce it right.
Yeah, and they're all I know all of them, and they all have a good reputation as modders, don't they?
They do.
Yeah,
They all
pretty
have
much.
very good.
Okay, well, I have learnt so much. I never realised there was so much to consider on servers about mods, and probably in one's own game, on the balance of the game and what it will do to it. I try to play vanilla and not to add mods at all, but there are tweaks I have started to make because I'm playing single player and it makes it more enjoyable. But I never realised it was so complex and that you have to look at the recipes so much and that there's so much to consider. And I'm sure a lot of people, when they play on a server, say, oh, for goodness sake, just add X. And they don't realise, yeah. And they don't realise, how many things that will affect. So...
Yeah, and it can be tough as a server admin to choose those particular mods, and it really depends on who your target market is. I mean, we think we have who our target market is pretty much figured out, that they want,
Yeah.
as close to the vanilla experience as far as normal settings go, and they just want some extra things added to the mods that aren't going to make the game easier.
Yes.
So that's our community.
Yeah.
What somebody else's community is that could be watching this video could be completely different.
Yeah.
They could have people that want an easier experience and are only coming to that server for 2 to 6 weeks instead of months at a time. That makes a big difference.
Yes. I can understand that completely. But yeah, I think it's working very, very well. I mean, your server seems to be going from strength to strength at the moment.
We're pretty fortunate because we've reached the stage of basically self-sustaining where people are going and getting other players and bringing them in, and I've been able to relax a little bit more on the recruiting aspects.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my friends are now on here because I know Copygirl's a member, but I've played with Nathan and Apache, and I'm familiar with Zaldaron. I'm very familiar with him and his builds. I've known Strom for a long time, and Aledark. It's very fascinating. And Kendi, 64, actually plays on my Minecraft realm. So there are people coming in here that I know extremely well. It's very fascinating to see all my friends turning up. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people on here. So, because I mean, there's loads of servers, but you want to join one that's pretty well thought out, I think.
Well, you don't want to join a server that's going to end in 2-3 weeks because there's no one on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one thing that I think Kikon, RammGirl, and everyone else is doing well. We try to welcome the people that comes in without silver spooning them,
Yes.
because that's a kind of a two-edged sword situation where you help the person so much that you are a nuisance for their development.
Yes.
So you have to find a again balance.
Yeah. Good.
We can give tips, but not silver spoon everything to you.
Yep, and we don't do anything through creative mode either.
Yep.
Yes.
Literally everything's been built by hand. Everything that's gifted to new players is stuff they gathered themselves. We don't spawn anything in to give the players.
That's the last point I'd forgotten to ask about. Thank you for reminding me on that. Well, that's been absolutely brilliant. Again, thank you all very, very much indeed. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ash.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.